Welcome everyone, my name is Brendan, and today we are going to be working on our C# chatbot project. Now wait, before you go away, thinking, hey wait, I've seen a chatbot before, we're going to be doing one that is a little bit different. We are planning on building a chatbot that is very modular, and the intention is that we want to make it so that any of the stuff we've custom built into any of our bots, whether that be, bots where we have added a module to it already, or whether it be bots that we have built custom, we want to have easy ways to take all of that custom stuff and put it in this one. Essentially saying, the bots that exist out there today that I've seen at least don't really lend themselves to extension that well. And by that I mean some of them have a way of making a module or a plugin or whatever you want to call it, and we've done a little bit of that. And that's actually what we're building into ours right now. It's just the initial layer of that. But what we want to do, what the goal is to make one that not only supports its own, but then can just have hooks to be able to use any type of plugin. So that's kind of the idea there. Friendly community on Twitch, good one. Yeah, so Paman, the funny thing is that yes, the developer community on Twitch is not to say that there are not elements of, the unfriendliness, because the developer community has that, like all communities have like an unfriendly side. But we do try to be a pretty friendly place here. We've got like light cajoling and things like that, but no, like, you won't find any actual malice in our chat. Most of the cajoling is things like, making fun of the silliness that we do on here and making fun of ourselves more than anything else. So, we certainly don't criticize people for like asking questions about how to do things and trying to get a better understanding of programming, which is the main point that I want to have. If you are one of the more junior programmers that is here watching our show, feel free to ask questions. You will not get ridiculed for that. In fact, we will try to help you with it. Okay, so where did we leave off? Let's take a look. First thing you want to do whenever you're jumping back into some code that you've been working on and you haven't messed with in a little while is to take a look at the history and see what you were doing. So looks like we were... That looks like reading the plugins directory so that we could get that, and adding a post build event so that our plugin could actually be a plugin. Well, let's run it and see what happens. Hey Simon, welcome, greetings. Welcome to the stream, everyone. Feel free to just wander in. I expect there'll be a bunch of people coming in. Just give it some time. Oh. Once everybody gets all their notifications that the stream is live. Ooh, hot reload available. Sweet. Okay. So inside of here, what do we have? Plugins. We have a Hello World plugin and we have a simple commands plugin. If I open up Solution Explorer and navigate to wherever this project is, which is right about here, I think, we should... Riley, welcome! Thanks very much for the Twitch Prime sub. Welcome to the stream. What we should find in our bin directory in the debug folder is a folder called plugins. So the intention is that this structure is not what it's going to be when like a user has the program. What would happen is the user is most likely going to have just a folder that contains the executable that they're going to run. If we're doing an installer, then we might have it fill, like it might have some DLLs in it, like lib references essentially. And if it's not that, then we could have it all built into like one executable. I haven't decided yet whether or not we're going to package it into one DLL or what we're going to do with it. We have not done the build process yet. But what I do know is that we want to have a plugins folder inside of the project. And essentially the reason why I like the idea of a plugins folder is it's pretty easy for a developer to just, put their stuff there and just build it and copy it, just put it in a folder, makes it nice and discoverable so they can build, they can use whatever build process they want, any build tools they want to just deploy into it. And it's not going to have the structure that we do with like it's a bin debug netcore 3, so the complexity is not going to be there for a user of our bot. That's just there for us developing the bot itself. So the programmers that would use the bot would not deal with the same thing. Okay, so the reason why we have two folders, two things listed in here, is because our folder contains two folders. So it identified these and put them in there and said, hey, I've got two plugins that I see that are available. So a couple of things that we want to do is, if we can identify the runtime we want to, and any other metadata we can find, we want to get in here as well. So essentially, we've identified the folders there, but we haven't done anything with it yet. And I want to solve that next. Pommen, .NET 5 when it releases. The last I heard was late this year. They've given some more specific numbers on that, but I'm not super trusting all the time whenever, like, even, so Microsoft is not that bad at hitting those. Yeah, exactly. They said November. I'm not planning on jumping us onto that ship early, because I've been bitten too many times before. Yes, scheduled for November 10th. Microsoft is pretty good about hitting those deadlines. Part of the reason why is because they often they align their release dates with other things, which is why they're pretty good about hitting them. I still hand wavy those because released candidates, and then we've also been bitten before by they release the product, but it's missing a critical feature we need, etc. So, yes, sometime end of this year, we will most likely be switching. Whether that's when there is a release candidate version, whether it's when the final versions come out, or whether it is like the first patch after the final version comes out. Don't know yet, but we'll see. So later this year, that's where I'm going to stick with. Okay, so when we load this, I don't need this debugging anymore. We're going to go into the app.cs, and the reason we're going into here is that this is where a WPF app initializes, and inside of here, I want to take a look at Initialize Plugins, which is this one. Okay, so what did we do? We grabbed the plugin initialization, and we called initialize on it. So let's go see the implementation of that. In here, we said go and get all of the plugin info entries in the database. Okay. So key there aren't any. We're not saving them yet. So we're going to want to create that collection in our data store. The plugin folders, it's going to read what folders are available. We're going to want to use this information in order to look up, like essentially pull the plugin and actually run it. This tries to match up what we've got in here with what we found here. Create records for new plugins. Okay. And then flag missing plugins. Okay. Let me see what chat was talking about. You're not an early adopter either nowadays. Yeah, exactly, yes. Many of us have been bitten by that. Specifically, one of the reasons why I don't want to do it on stream is, so we even did this a long time ago. The problem with early adopting on a stream is that you have a limited amount, like, I don't stream 40 hours a week, so I don't have, like, lots and lots of time to spend, you know, changing out versions and upgrading, which you can have that time in a company, which is funny to say that you can waste the time in a company. The reason I say that is because if you have a dev team that has a dozen people on it, it is not that bad for one person to go through, spend the time to upgrade a solution to that, when you look at that as like, oh, okay, one person does that for all the projects or something like that. Then it's not quite as an expense. But when literally it grinds the whole team to a halt because you're doing it on stream, then that's a different story. You do early access only on projects which will be done after release of the tool. Yes, exactly. So that is a good strategy, Paman, which is make sure that your planned release is going to come after the final version, so you're not releasing on a version that does not have a go live license. You want to migrate your stuff from Python to Python 3 from 2. Fuel Snable. The funny thing is, I mean, I know you're referencing the same thing that we've talked about on here. It is astounding how much Python 2 stuff stuck around and how long the life of that is. It is crazy how much stuff still is on it. But that actually says something good about it. For what it's worth, you're running .NET on VS Preview with both Blazor and WPF, and it's been surprisingly solid. Yeah, so I expect that it is pretty solid. The thing that I want to avoid is solid in that it's stable. It's not going to be like breaking on you. What I want to avoid is having to go and rework it when they change things is mainly all I want to avoid on stream. Okay, so the couple of things here. Let's wire up the screen so it actually saves the metadata between the loads, so that I could pick something like, say, what runtime it's supposed to be working with, and then have that save. So let's go to the plugin view model. Actually, let me take a look at the command view model, so I can see how I did it. Not that I'm a big fan of how I did it in that one, but it has a fundamental problem that I don't like. Oh, did I put it in the command set? Did I put it in the command set? Where did I put it? What saves these? Well, let's just do it this way. We're going to go to the data store and look at how I saved entities. I recall not being a huge fan of how I saved the entities. Custom commands on change. So we when we initialized the plugin said, hey, watch that collection and watch for it to change, and then save whenever it changes. So we technically could do the same kind of thing with the plugin view. I don't know that I want it to be in the plugin itself, so I wired it here because there's an entry point to the plugin that we have. I think the plugin view model might be a place that's not bad to do that. Let's think about this for a sec. So I'm going to make a couple of changes and see what I think about it. So we'll do list changed plus equals that. It's not the worst being in the view model like that. Okay, your understanding is it's feature complete now as of preview 8. Yeah, is COBOL still solid? Yes. Yep, COBOL's still being used. Yeah, so I guess we could consider using it. Is binding list a UWP thing? Don't think I've seen it in Xamarin. We're in WPF, not UWP, so it is here. It might be in Xamarin. I'm not sure. It's a good question. It is possible that binding list is not in there. Binding list is like an observable list, but it works a little bit different. There's subtle differences between them. So okay, so when the list changed, we're gonna do this, and then this is not really what we're gonna do, but we're gonna do it all the same. So we're gonna say plugin set plugins. Do we need a where? I think we want to save all the plugins that we've seen regardless. I can't see why we wouldn't just save all the plugins. That should be the data store. Yeah. So that'll be the data store. We will pass in that, which should work, which means that now we need to just have a... our constructor needs to take in the data store, and we will initialize that read-only object from that data. So data store.save entities, and there we go. So all it's going to do is if that collection changes, we're going to call save entities. Yay. Yeah, take a look, Riley Dom, because I don't want to dig into all the specifics, but yes, it is a slight variation on how that works. So, okay, let's have a look. So plugin initialization is where we want to do this. So I'm going to drop that there. Inside of our plugin view model, I'm going to drop this here. Because I could ask the data store what's in there and get it back, right? Okay. Whoops. All right, let's do that. I have nullable on, as in I have a nullable annotation context turn on, Paman? Is that what you're asking? Meaning that I can't just have uninitialized values to protect us from nulls through a bunch of compiler checks. If that's what you're asking, then yes. Did I get a new camera? Something seems different from the last time you were here. Hey, Strife, welcome, greetings. It is the same camera, it is the same microphone, it is the same lighting all around, it is the same green screen, it is a different desk, in a different office, in a different house. So, I have moved. So audio and other things are still up in the air. Some of my soundproofing is missing, so if my audio sounds weird and not as good, part of that is that I need to have essentially I've got some stuff that'll basically like cut off half of the room over here with some soundproofing, and then I need to get some soundproofing up on here as well. Lighting's still not perfect because actually one of my lights I have to have off because, well, here, watch. It's just too much. I need to like shift it away like a few feet. So just where it's sitting, it just lights me up too much. So hence one of my lights is turned off. This light's a little too close also, but you know, you deal with it, you figure it out. So all of this setup was, you know, for my previous space, and so I need to make it work here better. Okay, so let's have a look at what we got, everyone. First off, this should be empty. Okay, so it comes back count as 0, so perfect. That collection is empty, so let's continue on. And now the program should be running. Here it is. And now if we go into the plugins folder, I should be able to change this value from unknown to chatter plugin. We didn't catch our breakpoint. Strife! Thanks for the 6-month resub. Very nice. I think you just probably got a new Chatosaurus badge on there, would be my guess. 6 months has got to be one of those, right? Or is it 3 and 9? Maybe I'm wrong. You what? You've got the, you should have the adolescent one. Does he have the grabber arm? Ooh, he does have a grabber arm. So yeah, I think 6 months is one of them now. So very nice. Well, glad you re-upped the Twitch sub there. It's quite nice. So the question is, why didn't we catch this? Why did this not get identified as a change? Does it have to be a new one? Ooh. Wait, hang on. Did I need to click out of it, maybe? I'm gonna need to look at how that works. I might have that configured slightly wrong. Okay, so we saved our plugins. Oh, it's because it added a third one. So it identified the third one exists. Interesting. So now this is the part that I said I wanted to remove. Yeah, because it puts in an empty one. But did this save? So here's the empty one that we want to get nuked. That's the one that has simple commands, simple and then that, and that. Okay, so I think for these, I want to have some kind of a... I need to have an ID on these values. Is the short answer there. I need an ID. I'm glad it's saved. So now if I stop this and I run it again, we should have, when we initialize, it should load those values and attempt to align these. So let's see what happens. Okay, it came back with 3. Comes back with 2 that are supposed to be there. So then when we get our matched ones, okay, so it did manage to align them. So that means it matched up the metadata to the value. And now when we continue on, create records for new plugins. There aren't any, so it doesn't need to make them. And then flag missing plugins. What did we do for this? So this is that one that we're going to say is missing because it doesn't exist. It's the empty one that we created, which I think we want to not allow the creation of new ones on that screen to begin with. Makes sense to me. Seems weird on that screen to be able to create new plugins without actually having put the object there, but maybe I should say it seems weird to do it just by adding a new row. I think it would make sense if we had a button that you clicked that popped up a little window and you filled in the information, maybe loaded the files to it, and it would store it in that folder so you didn't have to find the plugins folder if you didn't want to. So that like a regular user didn't have to do that. But that's the row we unintentionally created there. Okay, so we need a status column. So let's add that. Status. So that is the plugin view. So we're going to do a little bit of XAML here in our WPF app. And yes, we can do this while debugging. I don't have to stop. This is like a read-only column, not a... Like, the status is not something you change. This is like you're informed of it. Data grid, text column, header is status, binding is going to be binding status, and is read-only true. Okay, so there we go. We have a nice set of statuses there. We've got new, and missing. So that works for the status. What else did we put on that plugin info type? Is there another value that we should have? And so right now we have name, version, location, name, version, location is path, runtime, enabled, and the status. Did I give these? Did I give base bindable's not going to have it? What I'm wondering about here is whether or not I created a basic ID or not for these. So here's my thought. I want to make sure that these reline up. I guess if we can always just line up based on the name and say, like, name is always how we're going to line them up, I guess. I want to get that ID. We'll skip it for now. Okay, so we can show the status. The missing one is one that we want to be able to delete or forget about or something like that. Let's change one other thing on that view. I'm not sure why that's not reloading. Silly designer. Okay, so we have these columns. This is the data grid. Auto-generate columns false. Can user add rows? False. I think we originally had that set to true because we were testing on stream. And we wanted to be able to do it just so that we could see something in the UI. So, and discuss the concept of how it was going to work. Let's go ahead and do this. I just want to get some of this code shifted around for now. Oopsies. There we go. Okay. I like the look of this a little bit better. Okay. How do you look? Do you look good now? I hope so. Plugins. What do we got? Hello World, there it is. New, unknown. Runtimes are staying the same on these. So Hello World will leave as a Python script one. And then we just won't implement the Python script yet. And unknowns we also won't do. So this is a runtime unknown status missing with basically no data. Quite a silly record to even have in there. Here's the add new button that I already had in place. A little button for settings related to plugins. The ability to search for them. Again, none of those are wired up yet, which is why it's not working. Totally fine. Expected. Okay. So let's go ahead and get this committed because I like this set of changes. So this is the initial saving of the data right here. So save changes to, we're going to say work in progress, save changes to plugins, plugin info. And then on this one, this is really all we did was add the status column and prevent adding new. So we're going to say work in progress, add status, and prevent add new plugin. There we go. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, let's walk through this again. So we have identified that the plugin is there, and we are loading it. We're still loading it the wrong way. We need to load it the right way. And the reason I say we're loading it the wrong way is this. It's here. This is our first plugin. This is simple commands, but it is getting run by the application itself. Our application knows it exists and depends on it. We don't want that. We want it to be, even though this is a core part of our program, we want it to get loaded as a plugin so that people can customize it, they can change it, they can replace it. We want developer level changes to this stuff. And by developer level, what I mean is we want to enable the developers to create it, and then we want end users to just be able to pick and choose which ones they want in here. So if you don't like the way that we did our simple commands, you grab someone else's implementation of simple commands and run that instead. Okay, so let's go have a look at that, because we can now, so the reason why we needed to get to this point is we needed to be able to tell it what our runtime is so that we can have this one try to run and it not try to run the other ones. So... Hey, Fitzy codes things. Welcome, Fitzy. Welcome, developers. Welcome to the stream. My name is Brendan, and I am here coding a bit of C#, a little bit of XAML. We are in WPF land building a modular chatbot with the intention of making it so that all the custom code that we have written for bots and all the custom code that anyone else has can get loaded into things. Greeting, Fitzy. How are things? Howdy, welcome. What were you working on? Something fun, I hope. Okay. So this is getting called from here, and I don't want it to. So the way to break this is to remove the project level reference right here. This is the way to just say, okay, so .NET Core has some really great ways that they have changed the way the Solution Explorer works and a lot of the references work and things like that. So I can remove it here by just removing, but they also really simplified the project file. So if I open this up, you can see the only thing referencing it is this. So I could also just delete that line and it's done as well. So whichever way I want to go. Why will it not save that? There we go. So now this is going to cause a bunch of build errors, and we'll take a look at those in a second. Let's see. You're picking up base Python from scratch? Oh, that's awesome! Fitzy, that's really cool. So we actually do Python on here every once in a while. It's not a common thing, but we do it sometimes. I, many years ago, switched from Python to C#. So I did a lot of Python like 15 to 20 years ago. So, Sandy Sensei, welcome to the stream. Thank you for that follow, much appreciated. So, it is, that being said, I've been pretty much out of the Python world for that amount of time. So, my Python is really rusty and I've forgotten a lot of it. It was a strange transition to C# because I was coming from a C# and Python have some very similar syntaxes, and I obviously I knew C++ and as well because I did C++ and Python mostly back in the day. But yeah, some interesting stuff. Yes, ML.NET. So you don't have to switch to Python just to do machine learning stuff. Yes, languages are fun. Okay, so. Okay, so here's what we get. So I made this change here. So I removed the reference. This is going to do a couple of things. First off, this is no longer possible because we can't call this from here. Let's find out if this got called from elsewhere, because this is what wires up the dependency injection for this module. So it looks like it's only called from tests right now. So what that tells me is that I need to have a look at the plugin itself. So let's remove this. And we're going to put this inside of, whoops. Let's, okay, it is open. It is open. I've already got it up. We're going to go in here and call it in the initialize of this, I think. Maybe it doesn't get this. How do we add additional stuff to the service collection after the fact? How do we get that to work? This is a thinker right here. Okay, let's explain, chat, so that we're on the same page. So we're going to grab a file at runtime and load it. What I need to do is make sure that we can initialize all of the dependencies into our IOC container. So we need to tell the iService collection about all the different values that are in here. So we need to be able to say, hey, if someone asks for this interface, give them this type. That's essentially the piece we need to do. The problem is, as soon as they have done this, Twitchloff, welcome. As soon as they have done this, I'll thank you again a little bit more in a sec. As soon as that collection gets built into the service provider, we can't add those values anymore. And so that's the challenge we run into, is while we're sort of stuck in a situation where if we want to be able to load plugins at runtime and turn them on and off, we need to have the dependencies load, which doesn't quite work. So we'll need to look into what we want to do with DI in order to make that happen. Twitch Live, welcome. Thanks for that Twitch Prime sub. Wow, 11 months. That is crazy. Yes, show number 1000000. Yes, we're on a very interesting episode number. If you take a look, we are on episode 256 of DevChatter, which is really a number we should have gotten to a long time ago. My stream schedule got a little bit busy, and I haven't been streaming enough lately. Let's see. You're expecting to end up working with actually good ML engineers rather than trying to do it yourself, so you just want to be able to converse, figuring out integrations, talk to clients intelligently. Yes, so if you know a team that you're going to be working with and they use specific technologies, you likely want to learn the same technologies they do. Even if you're going to make recommendations or suggestions of learning different new technologies, make sure that you at least know the one the team already does. One of the big reasons for that is communication. So if in certain spaces of the development world there are common language that is used, it is a good thing to take a look at that and try to understand how they communicate it. So there are words and phrases that we use to describe things in the .NET world that are not necessarily the same words used in other parts of the development world. For example, I was working with a team where they suggested spinning up a service. And I was like, spinning up a service? No, we don't need to spin up a service for this, because it would be like, we'll just get a web API for it. And the funny thing was, when the person said spin up a service, they meant a web API. But like service in my brain was like, they meant like spinning up a service, like a Windows service. And this was a Linux person I was talking to. So it's even just like, it's like, yep. I was like, no, we don't need a service for this. I'm like, what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense at all. Which is just funny, because it's like, oh no, actually that was a perfectly valid suggestion. In fact, I was thinking the exact same thing, but we just didn't align on what the words were. So it's interesting how that works. Okay, doesn't need to be DI. Plugins could just be dynamically loaded based on plugin interface, like how Excel does it. Then each plugin can be its own composition root, and the DI container immutability goes away. Yeah, so so essentially you're thinking if we make it so that the plugin just builds itself, so we could either just poor man's DI within the plugin, or say that the plugin takes essentially stuff from, like, it will receive values from the system potentially, but its stuff would not be available directly to other things except through itself, which is possible. Okay, so essentially what that means to us is that this is not the way that we wire that up. So hey, Coated Beard, welcome. Plugins responsible for saying it's given a core widgets on Connect. Yes, exactly. Yep. So it would have to create its own container if it wants to do that, and then it would just be able to receive anything it needs from the other ones. So essentially, then okay, so we're not doing that. If we do want to wire something up, then the simple command can run its own container. I service provider, right? Is that what we did on the other one? Did we just hang on to the provider? Did we do that in app.xaml.cs? Did we hang on to the provider or not? I thought I did, but maybe I didn't. Oh, maybe we just asked for it there when we did that. Because we can just grab it off the host. Since it has a host, the host maintained a reference to the provider. Yes, exactly, Simon. You're right. Only the C# versions, only the C# runtimes will actually use C# types for it. All the other ones are going to be getting called directly with specific sets of values. So, do I just create a service collection? I don't wanna host it. So we'll just create our own service collection in here, in Initialize, I think. So service provider has to get set to something. What does this get set to? Let me start over here. We're not going to create the field yet. So new service collection. Service. Hang on. Which thing do I need for that? Let's grab this and see if this is what's needed. Is that inside of our plugin project? Plugins. Simple commands. Item group. Microsoft extensions dependency injection. Is that the one that has it? I think it's the one that has it. It's just a service collection that make a provider from it. Yes, exactly. But the trick is that I can't have that created without initializing it. Like, the current structure doesn't work with making it nullable. So I can't make it nullable. Okay, so that was the... so essentially, if you missed what I just did there, because I did it a little bit fast, I went and I grabbed the package reference for Microsoft Extensions Dependency Injection, which is a NuGet package that contains the appropriate types to be able to do a DI container ourselves. And since we want to have an encapsulated DI container in this project, we need to go and include that. So that's what I did right there. So then when we create this service collection, which I'm going to just say services for now, I want to do services dot add simple commands plugin. And that will essentially do the initialization of the values that we already had. This is a method we already created. We were just in this a little bit ago. Mustafa, welcome. Greetings. Hello. When rock versus DI can... yes. At some point, we will want to shift that in as a game plugin for this, Janiscu. So I do expect that will be either part of a just like a package of basic games, or in itself a plugin, one or the other. Those types of things, because I expect that a lot of people will want to be able to just add in little games, and they'll want to be able to pick which ones they want. So some people might like rock, paper, scissors. Some people might like something else. So being able to just pick and choose is kind of what we're going for. Okay, so this will initialize our service collection with these. The simple plugin command needs to get access to the data store, the command set, and the main menu item set. So when we call these plugins, we're going to need to ask for that. Why would you use a Microsoft namespace? Because it was there, Wheatlaw. Because it was there. And welcome, Wheatlaw. Amnesia Top, welcome. Thanks for that follow. Much appreciated. Welcome to the stream. Hopefully you don't forget that you followed the stream and you can make it to our future episodes. Greetings, greetings. Glad to see you here, Wheatlaw. It's been a while. Let's see. Command set. Command set is what this wanted. We don't have a command set elsewhere. Command set is in here. Which means that when I build the service provider, let's make this a field, but I want to see what happens. It's complaining because I haven't initialized it, isn't it? Yeah. I guess I make it nullable since it can't be created until there. I guess it's got to be the thing that is not done until that point, because I don't have anything to set it to before this spot. It has been too long. Wow, Wheatlaw, that's a bad joke. If you mean why do we use them as namespace ourselves to make the extension method automatically discoverable? Oh, yes. Yeah, that is. Yeah. So, okay, yeah, I hadn't realized that's what Wheatlaw was asking. So yes, Wheatlaw, to answer your question, here's the deal. So if you look over here. Where do I service provider host initialize plugins menus? Where did I call that? Dependency injection settings. Okay. So if you take a look in this one, you'll see that I'm using a Microsoft namespace, and the reason why we're doing this is that by using this namespace, any code that has this namespace already included in the references at the top in their usings, so if anybody lists it up here, then this is going to be included in the IntelliSense. So the idea is when you are setting up your service collection, and this is common in ASP.NET Core, you need to add in different... if you're going to be adding in any kind of code, a lot of times the way that's done through it is through an extension method. The way that extension methods become available is by including their namespace. And without the namespace, they're not available. So by making this be in that namespace, anybody that is doing any IOC registrations, essentially, so if they're adding items to the IOC container, they'll find this one. And this is done through lots of NuGet packages for different libraries in the Microsoft space to just match this namespace so that you don't have to go and add like 20 namespaces just to do your includes, for example. Oh, so the funny thing is, Wheatlaw, even in Visual Studio, I get the same thing, and it actually discovers the ones that I don't have references for and will add them. But it is nice to not have that, because someone could be working in VS Code, and one of the other nice things is even beyond discoverability, it is that you don't have to add another row to the usings just for it. Yep. Yeah, exactly. The IntelliCode is definitely getting better. Hey, Dumpster. It's the first time... you want to find live coding sharing? Mustafa, what do you mean live coding sharing? Do you mean like you want to do like a VS Live share with someone? Or what are you talking about? You want to live code yourself? Is that what you mean? Okay, so let's declare a variable. Now someone is going to notice that I just declared a very strange variable because I had it, I gave it an underscore in its name, and the reason I did that, even though that's not the naming convention that I'm doing here, is that I can now I could rename that. I could also change that to be essentially a field here, which is what I'm going to do. I think. No, I can add that as an item down there. We're going to change how this works a little bit. This is going to stay a variable. So that renames to command set, and then I want to change this. This is no longer a private method. This is going to be a local function down here. Okay, so now that that's a local function, it has access to local scope. Okay, if what I did there seems really, really insane to you, then, well, that's why. Yeah, I don't have a. I should have a link to the live coders when we do that. Maybe I'll add it as one of the simple commands on here. Can that ever be null? I guess if someone assigned it to null, it could be. Can that be null? We get back a value. Let's assume that getService returns back a value that's non-null. We call initialize. We pass it in there. I don't think it can be null. I don't think so. So, okay. And thank you for tossing in the link there, Simon. Yep, that is good stuff. That's basically what I need to have on my on a like live coders or the live coders or something like that command in here. Okay, so that should work there. Data store comes separately. Main menu item set, that's separate as well. And then I add my stuff to them. I don't initialize them. So the last thing I need to do is take a look at this set. So this adds those values. Now I guess alternately, since this one is so simple, I could get rid of its DI extension and just do these three values because it's not really needing to be a separate one. Because it's literally just that. Because they're not coming from elsewhere, they are just in this. So I think I like this idea instead for now. So I'm going to make a separate method that says create service provider. Wait, what? Oh, since it assigned it there, it could do it entirely on its own. In that case, instead of create, I'm going to call it init. Initialize service provider. Hype! Thanks, Janisku. Let's see. This whole function seems a bit ungrasped for me. You're doing it confused. Yes, exactly, Simon. Yes, I want it to be in this bot, which is why I'm not adding it to the other bot right now, because I want it to be in this one. So, but right now I want to just do this transition into like the plugin structure for this and see how it goes. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna make a method for enable right now. It's not on the interface, but Let's just do it. There's no reason I can't create it and then just add the interface afterwards. So here's our enable and disable. So what do we do when we enable? These things? Command set. Did I not save that? It needs access to it while it's running. Needs access to it while it's running. We're going to have to keep track of this. Okay. All right, you get to be a field. You get to be a field. Congratulations. And I don't have a way to initialize it because it doesn't exist until this point. So I can't initialize it in there. So I need that. So the command set has to be nullable because it can't get initialized until we get here because we can't run it until we get here. I mean, I guess I could put these in the constructor, but I don't want to, I don't want to even do this if we're not, maybe initialize is enable. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe initialize isn't a thing. Or maybe initialize is almost nothing in it. Maybe that's a better description of it. Maybe initialize is reading the metadata? Grabbing the information about it, something like that? Okay. I'm reconsidering right now. I think our initialize might be our enable method, if that makes sense. Okay. We're going to do that for now. I think that might rename to enable. Okay. So let's see. What are we doing? This should not load our plugin yet. We haven't actually done that part. What it should do is find it, but not start it. Keep in mind it's also not set to be enabled, so it shouldn't run it. What I want to have happen is when I click enabled, when this box gets ticked on, that should be what causes the initialization of it. And in fact, let's have a look at that. So then that should make the command show up. Also, in the app, XAML CS, I had a little loop that was temporarily here, right here. We need to get rid of that. There are no plugins getting loaded this way, so this doesn't actually happen. Which actually, maybe this should be, instead of Initialize Plugins, maybe this is Discover Plugins. This happened last. I think I want to initialize plugins after menus and message handlers, because plugins are going to wire into that. So we'll initialize them last, which means instead of doing this, so if we go to the plugins, plugin initialization initialize, this should be the method that does it. Start enabled plugins. They can only be enabled if they're matched, because non-matched ones don't start out enabled. So if it's not matched, it's not there. So what that means is matched plugins are the only things that we take in. We'll call it plugins. This is just code that's just a reminder of what we're replacing. Plugin compose. Maybe write a comment block with the desired design for a plugin lifecycle and what each bit is called, the order and responsibility. Yeah, that might help. So it's at this point that I actually need to load the DLL at runtime. Load.NET core DLL at runtime. There we go. See? Google's. Well, that's funny. App with plugin, huh? Cool. No. Plugin paths. Yeah. Load plugin. Well, that's not what we want. This is hilarious. This may be the funniest thing I've seen in a while. What? Hey, Grimson Green, welcome. That's funny. That is really funny. That's hilarious. Hey, Ace Flames here. Welcome. Alright, so... I don't have that. I need... assembly... It's file name or path. Yeah, that'd work. I wonder what the difference is between load from and load file. Huh. I don't actually know. Alright, so let's just do a for each plugin, assembly load from plugin info. So let's say plugins where enabled is true. So only load the ones that are enabled. And we'll say plugin info location. assembly. There we go. All right. What is going on in chat? Yeah, it's part of the bot framework. System reflection assembly load. Quack. Introduction to bot framework composer. Hey, Coded Beard. Thank you for laughing at me. Explain. Hit Control V a few too many times. Yes. Yeah, Simon, I was wondering that as well. That was a hilarious... You've always used load from. Oh, I used load from. I don't know the... I didn't want to dig into what the difference was, so I was like, yeah, they seem like they all work. We'll find out. It does stuff with probing and versions? Oh, okay, cool. I don't know, we'll have to dig into it at some point. Okay, so this gets us our assembly. In theory, then, inside of this assembly, we should be able to find references to we should be able to get a type by name. So we have a couple of options here. We can either make it so that there's like a required type name or something like that that they all have to have. I did an interface for now. So don't know. Probing version sounds like it might hurt. No file will extract will load the exact file you specified. Yeah. As I said, I don't know. I don't know really which one we're going to want to have in there. Assembly. Get types where is it's not abstract. Oh, which ones do we want to have? I want to say that its parent is, or that it implements an interface. Interfaces, get interfaces. Ooh. Can I do a contains on a type and have it actually work, or is that going to get me into trouble? Yeah, I guess it is assignable from. And then just say type of iPlugin. And it can't be abstract. What's it complaining about? Return. Oh, yeah. Return value is not used. This is true. I did not use that return value. Okay. We'll two-array that for now. To do, extract this. Plugin type length equals 1. Cool. We'll say equals 0. Yell that we didn't find an init class. Else, if plugin types length greater than 1, to do, yell that we found more than one init class, and then else, yay, this is the happy path. This means there was one. We'll say so this should be the type. We want to get an instance of it now. Sorry, what am I getting yelled at? Load from is definitely doing more stuff. I don't know what for, though. Thank you for checking into that, Icy Black Pete. We might do load file then instead. Try is assignable from... oh, yeah. Yep. Sorry, I'm guessing there's stream delay or something like that. Okay. Accepted the argument instance for never the order I think they should be. Look it up every time. Oh yes, it's You're right. I might have that backwards. Is it type of is assignable from the other way? Hang on. Determines whether an instance of a specified type can be assigned to a variable of the current type. You're right. I have it backwards. It's that is assignable from X, right? Determines whether an instance of a specified type, so the specified type's the instance, which means X is our instance, can be assigned to a variable of the current type. So that means can X be applied, can X be assigned to a variable of type I plugin, is the way I have it written now. Yes. Yep. Yeah, so I just had to reverse that because you're absolutely right. That is one of those things that it's not like the name is fine, but you really need to think about it to make sure you get it right. Hang on a second. Wait, what? I'm very confused by a text message I just got. I have no idea what it's talking about. Oh yeah, Wheatlall. You're correct. I should put this in a variable because it's inside the where loop. So even oh no. We're gonna call it plugin interface. So we're just going to do that. And actually, I'm going to write type there instead of that. So plugin interface is that, is assignable from X, C. Also, aren't you allowed to have multiple plugins? Yes, Wheatlaw, you can have multiple plugins, but a plugin project should have one file, I think. Yes, I agree, Simon, and is assignable to would be a much better name for it. Okay, let's see. So, that. This is not plugin type. This is the startup types. Single. We know there's only one because that's how we got here. Because it, you know what? I'm gonna say less than one just for a sanity check. Because I'm a crazy person every once in a while. It's less than 1, 0. So I could like activator create instance of this, of that, and then this would actually just get me one. What I'm wondering about is... yeah, we're going to want to do it. So what I was thinking there for a second was, if we were before the service collection had been built into the service provider, we could potentially inject in at that point, use it to create those. But what it's actually making me wonder is... But I don't want to do it that way, because obviously if we're doing something that's not, that was loaded at runtime or enabled or disabled at runtime, then we can't mess with that, so we don't want to do it that way. But an activator create instance would be fine. The trick is that in order to do this, we need to know all of its types. So let's make a method. This one's going to be more complicated. So let's call this create plugin, create startup object. Create startup object, I guess. I don't know. Create startup object. It was a bad name. Don't worry about it. It is going to return back an iPlugin. Don't worry about the bad name for now. We'll fix that. So create startup object takes in that. It does not return a void. It returns back an iPlugin, which is what that is. And then we need to cast this. So we are going to return instance as iPlugin. You know what? Let's just cast it. I am aware that that could be a problem. Okay. Let's take this as an individual type instead of an array, because I think it makes more sense to come in as that. So that'll be startup type, which means I don't need that array anymore. So here's what we're doing. We're now saying create a startup object, passing in the individual type that we're supposed to get, and then we're going to say startup object. What is chat yelling at me about? Yeah, that'll just... yes, exactly. I don't want the DI because this is dynamic. Precisely. Yep. You put too much trust in the compilers optimizing C# code. You now just do the necessary optimizations myself. Yeah, so Wheatlaw, there are certain cases where I know that it does the optimization and I do them. I don't do them because I know that it does it. There are other times where, yes, I'm not 100% that it's going to, and so if it's easy, I try to avoid it. Yes, and Icy Black Deep's correct. What I'm talking about is the ones where I know the compiler has done it, and I'm able to confirm that it does it because I can look at the IL and see that it did it the way I think it's going to do it. Wouldn't it make more sense to find an appropriate constructor and invoke that instead of doing the create instance? Yes, Wheatlaw, that's actually what we're about to change. That's why I put it in this method. You are correct. Yep, we pulled it over here because I was like, this is going to get messier than like what I wanted in else. So, yeah. Get constructors. We want only public constructors, right? We want to get the public constructors. And let's say they're only maybe we only allow one public constructor or something like that, or maybe we choose the one with the most maybe we choose the public constructor with the fewest number of pick constructor with fewest arguments. So my thinking is this. I would like to say you can only give us one, but I'm thinking that's kind of mean. And so the circumstances I'm thinking of is if they want an empty one, I'm just going to say, no, you can't have an empty one. You got to have it in there. That's a good point, Simon. So if we had the constructor always be empty, we could have it require... Well, no, because we can't... So you're thinking like the factory builder take in a service provider or something like that, and it deal with getting its own? Essentially like service providering it? We could do that. If we did this, for example, we like the service provider in this case, like while people say like, oh, service provider is an anti-pattern, it is for some scenarios. I agree, depending on how it's used. Here, I don't think it would be the worst thing to do. Essentially telling the plugin like, hey, since you can't get this any other way, or if none have the attribute, then go to the constructors in order, picking the first for which you have services. Oh yeah, that's true. We could mark one with an attribute. Yes, has to have an iPlugin attribute. Yep, we could have a special attribute that was the one that indicated it, or we can just make it so that it has to have an empty constructor at that point. So activate or create instance would require that have an empty constructor. If this we grab the default constructor, for example, could be a thing. We could just do this, and then we could literally call the empty constructor this way. Which I think this would be effectively the same thing of just calling activate or create instance. And then if we just cast this immediately, then we essentially get the type right off the bat. Okay, let's do this. Okay. Nope, just have a plugin assembly be required to implement a class of a known interface that has a method that requires iPlugin. Plugin assembly be required to implement a class of a known interface that has a method that returns iPlugin. Yeah, so the challenge there, what Simon's suggesting is essentially then when we create that type, whatever it is needs to do the same thing that this is. So we, if we were doing it that way, I love it, Wheatlaw. Yeah, Wheatlaw's freaking out because create instance can return a null, which is crazy. I agree. If you ask me, create instance should throw an exception rather than return null. It is insane to have it return null. Some of the early stuff that was created in .NET seemed like good ideas at the time, I'm sure. But I'd kind of rather it fail a little bit faster there with like a, some kind of exception about like, hey, I couldn't make this. Like, I don't know why it would make a null. Okay, so we're going to cast that as that type. We're going to return back that instance, but I don't want to do that just yet. Because we moved it over to there, so we're going to say instance dot initialize. We're just going to pass. If we're just passing in the service provider, then it doesn't matter, does it? So we'll just return right there, just immediately. At the moment you're creating the instance of the plugin, invert the control and require the plugin author to provide a factory type that creates it for you, so the author gets control over the creation process. Yeah, so Simon, essentially, like, the structure that I'm going is I'm having the initialize do like the setup of the type and giving the author the ability to do that. The reason for this, and I don't like and I agree, the architecture you're suggesting is a better architecture from like a dependencies standpoint. What I'm trying to do is simplify the plugin creation for the plugin developer so that they just create one type and set it up that way is kind of what I'm thinking. I wanted to simplify this class for them, essentially, so that they do less work here. So instead of having to implement two classes, they only have to implement one, was kind of my thinking. Because if we go that way, we have a plugin and a plugin factory that both need to get implemented, one of them that creates the other one. Which I guess then that's a good point, because then they could do whatever they wanted in the startup of the plugin, and then they don't have to worry about it, and then their factory is the one that just has to be simple. So... and then as long as the factory then also requires nothing. Yeah. Exactly, that's the problem, is then who controls the creation of the factory? Because we get to the same question with the factory, but if you're saying that the factory is so simple that they don't have to worry about it, then yeah. Make it a static method with an attribute. Does a factory have to have... so so I was planning on doing this. If we do that, then it's not... you're right. If... okay. Yeah. Because then it doesn't ever get created in that. So I guess then, since the plugin's what needs to stay alive long term, it makes more sense for it to be able to take its dependencies into the constructor and create it. And since the factory then is a one lifetime thing, yes, I'm on board, Simon. I'm on board. It's an extra thing that they have to create, but I think it'll be worth it. I'm on board. I'm on board. We'll just call it the plugin factory for now. Ooh, is it of type? For T's and I plugin? I think it is. It is, because it is a factory for their plugin type. And then it is going to T. T create plugin I service provider. I think that'll do it. Okay, so Does a factory have to have a parameterless constructor? So, Wheatlaw, I'm going to require that it does in this case. If no factories are found, then you can directly instantiate the plugin. But if it has factories, then those should be used. That is a really good suggestion, Wheatlaw. Ironically, Forgecraft has solved a bunch of these issues. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Fullstack.net developer, anyone here the same? Mustafa, I mean, it depends on what you mean by full stack. Like, I can write unit tests, UI tests, I can create APIs, I can do HTML, CSS, JavaScript, I can do all the backend C# and .NET stuff, I can do, SignalR all the way through, and I can do Vue, I can do Angular, and yes, I can do the whole stack. I can do all the database stuff, I can write SQL. Whether or not I think that I should be the sole person building the application and everything is another story. I'm not huge on the concept of like full stack development because I kind of feel like everyone should be proficient in the full stack, but should specialize in specific areas, and then you get the added benefit of them working on a team. So it is through a team that we are great. Create instance, create by attribute, 2 create by single parameters, create by first constructor the service provider has. I wouldn't give it the whole service provider as they can make whatever they want. So the reason why I was going to suggest the service provider on this is that I want them to be able to ask for any specific type in the bot. And we'll rename it to T plugin. T plugin is I plugin. That looks so similar. Making it easier for them to know what to create, not as a security thing. So I wasn't thinking of this as security. So here's the thing that I was thinking that this adds. So this, let me show you what sold me on the idea, is that we can now ask for whatever we want in here. So I no longer need to initialize the service provider here. Let's create a factory for this. Let me partially implement and we can discuss. I plugin factory of type plugin, implement the missing members. So this is a method that is supposed to create one of those. Service provider, get service of type data store, and then service provider dot get service of type. What was the type that it wanted? Menu item set. Menu item set. Okay, what's it complaining about? Is less accessible. Oh, did I, oops. I guess this could be internal. Reflection, we can still find that via reflection. We're finding it by reflection, so yeah, so the thought was that this makes the plugin just have it take a host utilities type. Yeah, they can give it the I host or something like that. As in, like, here. You're thinking instead of giving it the service provider, actually just giving it the I host of the app? Because if we gave it that, then it could really do whatever the heck it wanted. If that's what you're thinking. Which we technically could. That being said, we can... oh, okay. So, like, something that... Yeah. Oh, that's a good point, because then we could actually just have our set of... Yeah. No, I like that. Yeah, that's a good way to go, because essentially then what we would be doing is, instead of giving them access to any types they want, we would have a defined set of types that we could grab ahead of time, and instead of then giving them service provider access at the beginning, we could just give them the collection. I like that. Yeah, I like that. Uh, yeah, we could, yeah. Menu item set is absolutely a type. Okay, so if we make the plugin utilities have this, then they would receive this type. And then inside of their constructor, their factory, I should say. So we would make this take in this, and we would call this utilities. Then in here, they don't have that. They do have this. This is utilities. And this is the set they're allowed to get. And then data store is absolutely going to be in there. Data store, because everything's going to need access to the data store. Utilities, data store, and menu item set. So then that would wire this one up. It'll take those, and then when we create an instance of this, where did I put the plugin stuff? Plugins lives here for... Not sure why it's here instead of there, but I'll maintain this for now. Plugin utilities. It has a constructor, and this constructor is going to take in the types it needs, like a data store, a main menu item set, hang on, chat, I see you saying stuff. Give me a sec. You know what? Get rid of those. We're going to create a torp. Okay. What is going on in chat? Then you... Yes, exactly, because then we can just specify all the types, all the properties that are available, essentially. Yeah, you're totally correct. We create facades all the time, and we don't usually call them a facade. You are correct. Then they provide one view of their host environment. If they need to do inter-plugin messaging, then we can always allow pub sub. Yes. So, yep, agreed. You may want two interfaces for each thing exposed by that utility: the view the host gets and the restricted view the plugin gets. Simon, can you do me a favor and toss in an issue in the backlog that is basically a create the restricted version of those interfaces, because that is something that is easily added later. and for now we'll just depend on essentially the wrong ones for now. Thank you, much appreciated. Because that'll, like, that's one of those, like, yeah, I want to get this working. So, like, there's a lot of, like, yeah, make it right, but I want to make it work first. Okay, so plugin utilities creates these types. So this needs to be in here, and we want only one of these since it's going to contain references to the other objects that we need. We don't want to have more than one of it. Plugin utilities is a plugin utilities object. We'll create one of those inside of here. Then when this gets created, so when this gets called, it's going to have that. That's what's going to be used to create this. So instead of trying to find the plugin when we are doing the initialization, we're not going to find that type. So instead of looking for, so let's look for both the plugin and the plugin factory for now. Plugin factory. Hey, the Todd Father, welcome, greetings. Thanks, Simon, much appreciated. Not sure if the T on iPlugin factory is overkill or not. Yeah, it might be, because it could just return an iPlugin and we don't care about the type. But it doesn't really cost us much to do it. Meeks, I don't mind the question at all. So you're wondering, essentially, when I start a project, so like when I come up with an idea for a project, how do I start it? Do I start coding or do I start designing the architecture? The short answer is it depends on the project. For most things, I like to flesh out a little, like enough to start writing a little bit of it and start making it work. And in my head, I'm like stewing on the architecture the whole time. And I'll write some things down. Sometimes I'll draw some things. I'll make little notes of stuff as I'm going. And for like large projects, a lot of times I will then once I've even done little bits, or I'll spike pieces here and there, then yes, for like a large project, I will go and actually draw out like, here's how all this stuff is supposed to work together, and then you can create from that. But it's rare that I don't at least do a little spike before I go ahead and do that. At least a, hey, does this work the way that I think it is? Yes. So Simon, you say A3 paper and pencil, but that's not a thing here. Actually, it might be for Meeks. I have no idea where Meeks is from. Yeah, we just grabbed some letter paper and letter size paper, and that's good. Writing interfaces and design the entire application that way. Yeah. That's always the weird thing. It's like you mentioned A3, and I was like, A3, I know what that is, but that's not what we don't have those sizes. Our sizes are strangely named. Gotta have all the strange US sizes and measurements, because that's how they do things. All right, so we load the assembly. Let's see if I can find the factory types. Types equals assembly, get types. Where X is abstract. So we want, don't give me any abstract types, because I know those are going to fail. So we're going to say the plugin factory is assignable from X. Okay, so if they had a factory, I called that startup types, but I kind of want to rename it maybe to instance types. So these are the factory types. I think I'm just gonna say if we had one to begin with, and we'll figure out anything else later. If factory types dot length equals 1, so if we had a single one, then take the factory type, create the startup object. This is going to be not create the startup object. So I guess maybe it is. So if we didn't get this, then we would go and create it manually. So if they give us a factory, we would do that. Otherwise, we'd do this. Okay, so yes, this is getting a little bit big. We're going to need to do a lot of refactoring on this. So this does not take a service provider anymore. Now initialize is an empty method because of the way that we restructured this. And I'm sure there's stuff going on in chat that I need to catch up with. Don't worry, I'll be there in a second to take a look at it. Okay, so what is going on in chat? You pretty much always start with writing interface, blah, 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 dirt, blah, blah, blah. You forgot you do it differently in the sensible parts of the planet. Exactly. Yeah, see? There you go. For our US friends, Yeah, so some people like starting with UML diagrams before they begin. I do like diagramming how an application would work, whether that be like actually, going and creating a UML document that explains it, or whether that is like just, a pen on the back of a napkin or something like that. Doesn't matter to me. I do like doing that kind of look at a project in some way, drawing out what it's going to be, maybe a whiteboard, whatever. But usually before I do that, I have spiked something of it because I like jumping into the code. Nikki Supra, welcome, greetings. The one that's always run out because hardly anyone uses. Oh yeah. Yep. I like to do a little bit of code first. And I definitely do things differently some of the things I do differently on the stream. So for example, in this project, I started with the UI, which is usually the last thing that I worry about. Like, I want to think through the user story and come up with it. And it's one of those like, okay, yeah, you come up with it, but you don't implement it. You sort of figure out what it is, and then you kind of put the two pieces together and you make this big vertical like piece of like, here's the feature from all the way to the database and back. But thank you, Supra. Thanks very much for the 20-month resub. Yes, the 2-year badge coming soon. Well, Nike Supra, I have months to figure that out. I forget if I'm allowed a 2-year one or if that is a partner-only badge. I might be allowed to have one. If I am, then it's possible. To answer your question, we might do some badge upgrades and new emotes or something like that at some point. If I ever do get streaming regularly enough to even be considering a push for partner at some point, then at that point we'll probably have a bunch more emotes and badges and other fun stuff. Okay, so I changed that to initialize, and this is creating its own service provider to create that object, not using that one. Technically, we could do all of this. Is that service provider kept around for any purpose? No, not really. We're not keeping it for any reason. At which point, I want to move this. This is a factory method. So keep in mind that this is likely to be our example application. Like, this is likely to be one of the examples that people are going to reference when building their own stuff. So I want to make sure that whatever we do in here is done the way that we want it to be done. So in the long run, this needs to be a great suggestion for how to do this work. Okay, so that will get us our service provider. That will get us our command set. Oh, that's an interesting problem. So I've registered some things in here that I'm not pulling yet. So you have to think about this one. Does that mean you're going to have to add comments? Yes, Simon. So we are going to actually have to put in a whole bunch of comments explaining this, and we're going to want documentation on this piece. And yes. So interestingly, Wheatlull, for like example code like that, I actually think that there's an element of what that gets included, because if what you're creating is essentially more of a template, then you do need the what in addition to the why. So essentially it's an extra layer of comments that you get if the purpose of the code is not solely to run and be maintained. If the code is just there to be run and maintained, then the why is the important part of comment. But if it is the example code, then you do want the what as well. Yes, exactly. And actually, Simon, I want to put those in on basically all the public methods. I want to go through at some point and just add those into all the public methods. Is there something better, easier than Sandcastle these days? I'm not sure what is going to be a good choice for that right now. Icy Black Deep. Chat might have some good suggestions. I'm out of date on my suggestions as well, as most of my solutions are not using I should phrase this as I have not gone searching for what is the best choice in that realm right now. So, do I give it the service provider? When do these get used? So this is a message handler. But I think that this is not correct. That gets a collection of message handlers. Yeah, we need to change the structure. The way that we're doing this is not going to be right. We don't want this one yet. The message handler needs to be something else. We instead need to get a message handler and respond to it that way. This isn't the way we're going to structure it anymore. Okay, so that's going away. How did the custom command validator get used? It is not getting used. It's just that it is a validator of that type. Does it need to get wired up then? Let's get wired up. I don't think it is right now. I don't think anything's doing anything with it, so... Yeah, it looks like that's all it's doing right now, Wheatlaw, at which point I'm thinking I'm going to get rid of it. And we can add it back in if we decide we need one. Because to be honest, I'm gonna, like, this is simple enough that I feel like I'm just gonna poor man's DI it, because I don't think we need anything more. Oops. New command set. What's in command set? There's nothing special about it, right? Yeah. Called that. Right now, nothing. Okay. Alright, we are going to create a read-only private iCommand set named command set. There's command set, which we are going to initialize with all of the custom commands from the data store. We're going to add it in here. We're going to check when its data changes, and then we're going to do that as well. It is not nullable. We do not need the exclamation point anymore because we put it back in the constructor, and that's the value that we got out of this big refactoring here, that structural change we made. So what do we do? When this gets called, the factory gets called, the factory gives us access to the types that we need that are part of the bot and not part of the plugin. The plugin factory creates this, which is our type that is like essentially the core of the plugin. This is like its runtime essentially. This is like the plugin itself. This is like the app XAML CS file. Inside of here we have an initialize method that gets called. It initializes the command set with the data. It goes and accesses the menu item set, adding itself into the menu item set. Official, welcome. Thanks for that follow, much appreciated. Welcome to the stream. And then we're going to monitor the lists for changes, and when things do change, we are going to save them. And we're only going to save the ones that have that. Okay. So I think we're now at the point where initialize is enable again. Yes, C#. We are doing some C# here. Okay. Does this currently compile? I don't know if it does. We're about to find out. If it does, I might run it and see how close it is to actually working. Okay, cool. We have a couple that need to get fixed. Add simple commands plugin. Oh, this is the commands testing. Okay. So do we need that to create a command set? We don't create the command set from a service provider anymore. So this needs to actually just create one. Which this doesn't have reference to. Because this is referencing that one. So I will project reference this over to the plugins if it's not. Oh, wait, it is already? Oh, commands set. Derp. But it's internal because of the way that we wrote that. Aha! That's going to cause me some trouble. Oh, yeah. That would totally work, Simon. Initializing stuff outside of their construction procedure to me looks very bad. Wheatlol, so you're wondering about which thing? Do you mean in this? If I rename it, it'd make more sense to you. If you think of this as enabling and disabling of like whether this is turned on or turned off, then it's not initialize. It is like if you think of this as enabling command set initialize, yeah, it's more like you're right. It's the problem is it's got to be load because we can't take it in as a. I don't think we can take it in as a constructor parameter, can we? Could we? I guess we maybe could. It'd need to depend on something else. I guess if command set took in the no. It actually we could do it that way. If we gave it the data store instead. I'm gonna do this for now, just so the test can work. Rodriguez, welcome. Thanks for that follow, much appreciated. Welcome to the stream. You create a command set based on a list of commands. Yeah, so the trick is I'd need the list of commands, which I don't have at that point. The list of commands has to come out of the database, so I have the database. So what I could do is I could add a constructor to this, which might be the way to go. The constructor then takes in the iData store and knows how to grab that collection. So instead of doing this, here, it does it here. And we get rid of that initialization there. And then the data store would be get entities of command, custom command. Like that. And I don't like doing a call inside of a constructor because that's a little messy, but it's not terrible. Yes, and it would avoid the not fully initialized states. Yeah, if we get rid of this essentially, then and just add the complexity onto that. In this case, I guess it can take it in only because the other one has the factory. So, yeah, we can. This only works because we're not using IOC. If we then switch to using IOC, we're suddenly going to have a problem. So let's go to the factory. Utilities, data store. And then this becomes a list of commands that a command set needs. That becomes the commands for the command set. And then, boom, there we go. And that works there. Then that passes in. We don't have to initialize this with that data. At that point, does that... We're using the data store for anything else? Saving the entities, so we do still need it. Yeah, I thought you meant this initialize, and I'm like, no, the plugin needs an initialize. I mean, like, we could call it enable, but it has to be here, because like a plugin absolutely has a we're not running state. In this case, like it's fully baked, but it's just not on, which is why I want to rename it from initialize to enable, because I think that makes clearer what is going on. So we would then do this. So that would then create the object. Yeah, we don't use that anywhere else. All right, let's see how many other on enable. I think it would just be enable. I guess we could respond to the enable bit and have some interaction based on that. So yeah, we could go that way if we wanted. Okay. Yeah, I want to switch those back, but I don't really have a great way around it. Those. All right. Yeah, I was just gonna say I'm just planning on having it be enable. Allow task as a return type? Task as a return type on which thing, Wheatlaw? On enable? Essentially making that an async. And I agree, I do want it to be async. It is not yet, obviously. Yeah. And yes, Simon, you well, technically we could just store the values in the interface, and that would actually probably be the way to go, Simon. So you're actually probably right. I should change those. Hello, Saurus TV. Hi. I like your name. See? It's changed. Uh-oh. Why did that change right away? When I load this. Item added. Plugin set. Oh, as it finds the initial set. Because the starting ones, it exists and it finds them and it adds them into the thing. Plugin initialization. Where does that happen? Read the plugins folder. Gets me that. Create the records for the new plugins. Let me get a breakpoint here. I just want to see what's happening. Hello, Saurus. The stream's going reasonably well. We are just writing some code and trying to figure out a couple of things while we're doing this, but not bad. It's just personal preference. The cost of DI perf in test is worth it for validating the public API correctly representative in the interface. The alternative is to declare the test subject to the type interface and cast it as constructed. Simon, I agree. The trick here is that is tests of the plugin in this case and not the rest of the app. So it gets a little bit weird there, so I agree. One of the ways around some of that to check the API a little bit better is to essentially create the concrete type and have the concrete type assign itself into a variable that has the type of the interface, which is a way to check that as well. So, which I could do, but again, I'm not going to do at this moment. But you are right. Oh, I said I wasn't going to do it, but I'm going to do it. PD, welcome. Thanks for the follow. Much appreciated. Welcome to the stream. And anyone else that's in here and is enjoying the stream even a little bit that has not yet clicked that button to follow, be sure to do so, as it is the best way to get notified when we go live. This one's already using the interface, so that should be good. And I'm not going to go look at the other ones then. Okay, so we got to that point. I thought it was going to be in the initialization. Hello, Saurus. Yes, welcome. Thank you for... oh, Wheatlaw, good try. Good try, Wheatlaw. Thank you for that follow. Hello, Saurus. Oh, is it off? Now I must check. Hang on. Okay, did that work? So it's back to red. Oh, lime and yellow. There we go. Yeah, apparently that one of our bots here on the stream, of which we have too many, took a moment off. But it is back. So, hooray for bots. Lots and lots of bots. All the bots. Because who doesn't want more bots? Alright, so if I take a look at the plugin set, what uses this? We add one there. That's fine. And then when we're initializing, we get it there. In the view model, we have it there. We add that. We add this. Where are I? You know, I'm gonna check stack trace. I'm gonna check stack trace. Yes, Wheatlaw. That was the joke. The entire joke was that we are building a bot because we have too many bots. It's like when you go and you say, like, there are too many standards for this programming thing, so I'm going to go build the one standard to replace all the other standards. Hello, Source. You want to make a program in C#? Awesome. Welcome. C# is a fantastic language for writing programs because it's a general purpose language. So if you just generally say, you know, you want to make programs in it, C# is a good choice. If you have something specific, there's sometimes an optimal choice for what it is, but C# is a good language for that. So welcome. And feel free to ask questions if you're newer to programming or C# in general. And that goes for anybody, really. You don't have to be new at programming or new at C#. We all have questions all the time. Yes, more bots! Yes, I don't remember the number either, Wheatlaw. But you were absolutely correct. There is one that is... there is an XKCD that is all about the idea of, you know, replacing the standard with a new one. And how you just end up with more. My hope is that I don't just end up with an extra bot and that we actually get, you know, the correct amount here. Hang on. register the plugin. Plugin set register the plugin when we do this. Got it. So if we had it, I'm adding it to the list. Does register... What does register do? It adds it to the item collection? Did we not just, like, load it from the database with all the data in it, though? What creates the initial plugin set? Apparently nothing. Yeah, nothing does. Okay. Alright, we're gonna do the same thing here. I'm not a huge fan of this, but I think it's gonna work reasonably well. Base set will create one. I'm going to override it because we loaded it from here. So I'm going to say items equals new binding list of these, but it's not really. It's a new binding list of the data store dot get entities of type plugin info. Do I ever want that to be its own variable? I guess that's fine as it is. Plugin set. This is allowed to be overridden in a protected case. We'll give it a protected setter for now. And we'll see if chat is freaking out and yelling at me about that. Okay. Oh, actually, this does need to be here. Okay. And yes, Wheatlaw, XKCD just needs, it needs, what is the word? It's a word for when you're, slugs. It needs slugs. XKCD needs slugs in addition to its numbers. We don't need to replace them, we just need to have another way. At least you're the author of one of the other bots, so you can at least drop that one and end up with the same number of bots in the end. Yes, exactly, Wheatlaw. You've been trying to convince Frit to port his, bot to this framework. Not sure if he's that keen yet. Yeah, so Simon, my thought on that one is that I think it would be a good idea to get a number of us to switch over to it and work together on it. There are a couple of other devs that we might be able to convince to work with it, and I think it would be a good solution for that. Take an entire redesign. I will say, Wheatlaw, one of the things that we want to do is by having the reason why we want to do the modular approach, the plugin approach, is also so we can have multiple types of plugins that can access this. So the idea is by building adapters to each one, it hopefully will not require lots of rework from each developer to port their bot over to this structure, is the idea. And I know I'm not the best person to create the UI and everything like that, but we want to use... But the reason for creating this is to essentially create the platform for people to do this, and then hopefully we can get others in the community that are better at that than I am to make it work. Why should I use a for each when I can use link? That's actually a fantastic question, and some of that just comes down to style and preference. So right here, I did just a regular for each loop. I think people are going to be able to read that just fine. The suggestion is that I can also, I could just do, items and then say for each. And I actually can just for each over this, and I can say items.add x, right? And this, that one-liner is like the same code that I just did here, and it works fine. And I can do that. I it doesn't really make a huge difference. So it comes down to like preference. So I do a lot of those in like the projects. I think we may have custom built that one because you're right, it wasn't a list wheatlol. So in like a software project, if I know I have a team of people that all know Link really well, then it's perfectly fine to just use a for each extension method like that and just write the lambda and everything, and that's totally fine. If you know your development team is aware of that kind of thing, and the project's going to be maintained by people that are used to working in that way, that's a style choice, then absolutely write that. If, however, you're writing it for a more public venue like this, or if you don't know who's going to be maintaining the code in the future, then a for each loop is understood more easily by more developers. So yeah, it's some extra lines of code, some extra cruft that doesn't need to be there, but it's fine. It does the job. And that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. What is the T standing for in the enumeral of T? Is that a model? T is a generic type. So essentially, in C#, it's going to make like generics in C# are actually a very, very advanced topic that I'm not going to. I was about to start discussing, and then I'm like, wait, no, we're not going to get into how generics actually work underneath the hood in C#. Essentially, think of that as at runtime, that T could be anything at this point because I have no restrictions on that. So this could be a struct, this could be a class. That is some type, and we don't know until we use it which type it is. So someone has defined their base set to be of some type, and then we can use any one we want. So this could be a base set of strings, it could be a base set of integers, it could be a base set of the custom command type that we have inside of this project. It doesn't matter which one it is, and the T essentially can change to be whatever type it needs to be. And not getting into the implementation of that, because that is a whole discussion on its own. Yeah, yes, time to put away the popcorn. I agree, it's a fun conversation. Literally, like, I don't know, 10, 12, 13, 14 years ago or something like that, I used to have long conversations with someone from the C++ world because I like the way we've got the generics work in C#, and he likes the way the templates work in C++, and we were discussing all the differences and advantages and disadvantages and all these different scenarios. So I've had these long conversations with people before. We're not going to dive into those today. Easier to understand equals cheaper to maintain. Yes, exactly. Yep, Simon's correct. If your code has more people that understand it, it's easier to maintain. That being said, if the whole team knows it, then it's just as easy to understand and maintain. You were going to say it took me ages to get used to generics. In Java, it's... oh, yes. So the weird thing, you comment about that, Dumpster. Again, not going to get into the specifics of exactly how both of them work, but I believe, and I know I've brought this up on stream before, but when Java implemented the generics, they actually did it through a process of type erasure. So at compile time, all of your types matter, and that actually comes up. But then at runtime, I believe they have actually removed all the type restriction on it. Because the generics needed to be because the way that Java updates is they always try to be backwards compatible, so or at least as much as they can be on things. So with the question mark extends in the question mark super, and that's why C#'s current obsession with switch expressions is insane. Yes, yes, I agree. Icy Black Deep. A lot of people really like the switch expression. I kind of do. That being said, I don't put it in a lot of places. There are a lot of really neat features in C# that I'm like, wow, that's really cool. If I'm working only in my own code and I'm going to be the only one that looks at it, awesome, cool stuff. Okay, but fantastic question. Thank you for jumping in with that. So we should be able to assign this value to this one that gets created there, which means when we go to register these, register complete plugins, we don't actually want register to register them. that way, do we? Matched plugin. What do we do with the non-complete ones? The matched ones. Do we actually need to register them, or can we just match them? And we don't actually need to do any registration. Create records for the new ones, and then, yeah, and then flag the missing ones. Okay, yes. So I just need to change this. It's no longer register, and it's not going to register them. So this is going away. So this is going to be find matched plugins. There we go. So it's finding them, it's doing the matching, but not registering them with the command set, with the plugin set, I should say. Okay. So that returns them back. So here's what we're doing. So we pull all the plugin information out of the data store. Which, do we need to do that? It's in the command. It should be in the set. Do we need to do that? We just use the one in the set. Do I have the set? I have the set. The set's right here. The set should already be loaded with it. Whoops, I meant to do this. We don't need to pass in the list of these, we're just passing in that folder. And then this is that.plugins. There we go. Okay. So that finds the ones that are matched. So then in here, in the missing ones, we don't need either. So we flag the missing ones by passing in the matched ones and checking to see which ones are not there. Plugins. There we go. So we'll go with the plugins except for those ones, and then we will match them as, we'll mark them as missing, essentially. Now that makes us not need the data store anymore, which is really nice. Okay. There we go. Excellent. You still miss select case true from v.net. I do not. Wouldn't you want iDataStore get entities to be async? I'm not sure if this applies to the project. Oh, yes. My plan right now, we're doing everything synchronously, and we're going to have a round where we go through the system just at one point, and I'm going to take everything from synchronous to asynchronous. So yes, that is absolutely the plan. We do want to do that at some point. That being said, it's not going to happen today. But you're right, we do need to do that, and we will do that. You're not too familiar with TypeScript, but you suppose okay, the program you want to make is going to be a malware analysis tool. You just drag and drop the file into the application, then it decompiles it, but it also has a function to decode cryptography. Hello, Source. I'm wondering what you're looking at. Are you trying to find out if a program contains malware operations? Oh, have a good one. See ya. TypeScript has to, since you believe it compiles into JavaScript. Yes, it does. Strongly typed nature of JavaScript is limited to compile time and can't extend to runtime. Yep, that is true. And yes, so yeah, compiles, transpiles, same operation, different end result. I mean, it's very simple. Too many green. I agree. Way too many people in here that have green in their for their names, which I will say really makes me want to. It really makes me want to finish up one of. So let's talk for a sec. So we're building this cool bot that has these modules. I started building a module for a different type of bot, one that I don't usually run in the chat, but I did this as an example. If you don't watch my YouTube channel, is that bot stopped? Yeah, of course that bot stopped. The bots probably stopped at the same time, would be my guess, and I killed one of them and not the other one. Anyway, I'll stop that for a second. So YouTube channel, links down below. But over in our YouTube channel, we have you can find the archives of all of our old episodes. And one of those episodes, I did a plugin for another bot as like a one-day build kind of thing, where I was like, look, you can sit down for a couple of hours and build a full plugin for this if you just know what you're doing. And so we just walked through, we built a plugin for that bot. And so that's why we want to do plugins, is because it's really neat, because you can just take a bot and you can just build an idea and you can just add it in and like, hey, look, new feature, and I can share it with other people, and it doesn't take much time. Plugins are awesome. The feature we did was Jedi and Sith detector, except that the path we were going down is it determines whether you're a Jedi or a Sith, so which team you're on for that plugin, based on the color you use for your name in Twitch chat. So like when people are commenting too many green names in the Twitch chat, I think it would be really neat if that just means that we can get a whole bunch of Jedi in here. Why not? Yeah, exactly, leading lady. Isn't that a ridiculous idea? Uh-oh, why did the bot say bot arrived? It should not have said bot arrived. I didn't start it yet. Uh-oh, zombie bot. We'll try it again in a minute and see what happens. Oh yeah. It's a hilarious idea. Fall Guys team colors. So I've seen a bunch of Fall Guys stuff. I haven't tried playing it yet. A lot more purple. Would you? We have a lot of waste. Yeah. So absolutely, Wheatlaw. You totally have people as Mace Windows. So the thought was that there are a handful of colors that work for either one. I wasn't sure what you're going to do with the people whose color is getting randomly assigned, because if you don't pick your color, you get randomly assigned one. And then there's also some areas where it's like you could be either way. So the thought was that you were either going to be aligned with the Jedi or the Sith, or we would throw you in like the, unaffiliated bucket, essentially. So like some of the weird ones could get tossed in there. So it could be that even though purple is usually associated with Mace, that we would just be like, no, you're unaffiliated. Your name color is pretty close. Oh, a lot of people's name color is close to the lightsaber color. Mine is. And I don't mean this one. What I mean when I say mine is I mean, hang on one second, I gotta join. That one. There's my lightsaber color. Yeah! Who doesn't want a yellow lightsaber? Come on. It's like, that's a good one. Yeah, that's what I mean, leading lady. Not surprisingly. Usually you chose the color for your name because you like the color. Rainbow lightsaber. Now there you go. Simon, you almost got me. You almost got me, Simon. I almost didn't notice that. Thought Simon had me there for a second. Okay. Let's see what happens. I think this is going to work. Not that I'm a Star Wars fan or anything. We have a color of lightsaber that can change. Yeah, so rainbow lightsabers really depends on what you mean. If you mean like it's rotating through the colors, that would be neat. If you mean like it has like rainbow stripes on it, that would also be really neat. And even whether you mean like, stripes like it was discs, or stripes like it looked like it was, like 5 lightsabers together kind of thing, either one would be really neat. There are so many cool ways that you could really do these concepts. Okay, so we got to this point without hitting the save thing, so that's good. So what's changing here? Why do we have 4? Why do we have 4? What? What's it adding? Lies. What are you doing? Why do I have multiple empty ones in here? Maybe that was a previous one? Flag the missing plugins yelled at me about this. Why are you yelling at me? What is this? Visual Studio's yelling at me. What is this? You mean a circular lightsaber? Yeah. Oh, that'd be effective. What brilliance! You know, because of all those swords that people made that were donut shaped. Such a great idea. Can't believe I never thought of that. Okay, so what were we doing? We were initializing the plugin. Plugins initialize, flag the missing ones, and we're just enumerating through it. Oh, and then registering it. No. We can't do that. We're just marking it. There we go. That's what happened. I understand now. Oh, I yell at me all the time, Simon. I yell at me all the time. Oh, look, a double set. Whoops. Something went wrong. I must have registered somewhere else. Okay, this is the spot where I actually do want it to register them. Because if it notices new ones in the folder, I do want it to create those ones. Yes, Simon, we need to implement delete. Definitely need to implement delete. So it looks like it's not doing it a second time. So it must have been one of those cases where we didn't have it fully baked, that it recreated them. And yes, we do need some more logging on this. Yep. We have a backlog of stuff that we absolutely need to have in here. You are correct, sir. Let's try having that on. Did that save? I thought I was going to get a thing if that saved. Yeah, exactly, Simon. I could just nuke the table. It didn't save. Okay. The other question is, okay, so let's have a look. I think we need to have, so we need to have the ability for them to enable and disable. So that's why the commands isn't there, is because it wasn't enabled at the time. So let's adjust commands real fast. Or let's adjust the, we need this to be enable and disable. Enable. Disable. Okay. Enable, and now it needs a disable method. Okay. There we go. This no longer needs to live in here. This could be private and be on its own, which is good. Because this needs to come out. And live out there. Excellent. So that does not need to get moved into enable. That does not need a comment telling me to rename it to enable. So this needs to have menu items set, menu items. This needs to get saved somehow. This needs to be field initialized in the constructor and made read-only and remain private, because now I need to remove that reference from this. And so by using reference types, that should be able to get removed from the collection directly. I was impressed with the application insights when you were using it on the project. It's Azure logging service. It's quite amazing what it tracks through. Any live or meeting for .NET developers or any chat? Mustafa, well, I mean, this is a this is a group of people that are .NET and C# developers primarily, though I know there are a lot of people in here who are not .NET and C# developers, but are just hanging out anyway, because why not? Okay, so in this one we add it to the collection of menu items. In this one we remove it from the collection of menu items. And that should add and remove it. And then down here we need to change the way the event works. Instead of adding it, we're going to remove it from that list. So you enable it, it does that. You disable it, it does that. Yeah, Wheatlaw, that I know you're in here. That's part of why I specifically pointed out that it's not all. And yeah, Simon's now basically yelling at me to turn the bot back on because I didn't turn it on yet. All I did when the bot messed up before was I shut it off. There, bot's back. Okay, so the thing that Simon was alluding to is our Discord actually is a community full of developers, like-minded people that are nice, friendly, things like that. So good try, Simon. Yes, there are people in chat trying to troll me. If you didn't know, if you type any color into the chat, it changes the color of these lights that are on the stream, and it happens that you can check for the word. You can use black or anything else that'll make it so the lights are invisible. And people have many times, too many times, made it a color that, like, they would make the lights black and then it would disappear, and I'd be like, oh, is the bot broken? And I'd go looking around and then I'd be like, oh, someone just turned it. Yeah. So, funny enough, Icy Black Deep, if you don't know how these colors work, gray is actually darker than dark gray. And I'm not kidding. So, yeah. Okay, so enable, disable, in theory, will work. We just need to wire them up now. Remove this. Yep, sounds good. I'll remove it now. I need to go to where this is used, which is the plugin view XAML. You know what I could do? I should give the plugin, when we initialize, when I load a plugin, I should give it its plugin info if I have it, right? Do I have it? That's the question. Oh, this gets created by the factory. What called the factory? Factory got called here. This gets called here. So this gives me the factory type. We get 1. This is not the correct call. The factory type is an I plugin factory. See, I didn't complete this code. I don't know its type. I don't know its type. Okay, the person that asked me, do I need that T? Or should I just have it return back this? Because whether or not that was going to add the complexity, we're getting rid of the T. Goodbye, T. Because occasionally, the generic typing in C# is actually going to get in your way and not help you. So let's just nuke that, and then we should be much better off. So now when I'm in here, I'm going to just get back a plugin factory, and then... Oops. Now we're going to get back a plugin factory. Same thing, but for factory. This will create the factory object. So this is the factory type. And a chat, I saw someone saying something. I will be there in 1 second to look at it. I have plugin factory. Okay, gives the factory type, gives that, and then this is create plugin, and this needs to pass in the utilities, which I never did. Okay, what was going on in chat? Tareem, I have a lot of book recommendations. If you've been programming and doing a bunch of testing, working effectively with legacy code is a fantastic book to read. If you are interested in learning design patterns, one of the books that I would always keep on the bookshelf for developers that were going through either my internship program or junior developer program would be Headfirst Design Patterns. Highly recommend them, as they are really good for teaching those concepts to newer programmers. If you want to dig into language, you could take a look at the C# books by John Skeet, C# in depth. Also, if you look down below, there is a widget in the panels below the stream that you could take a look at, which does have links to some of the books I recommend. So you'll see some of those down there. Some of them are just general, like, businessy type books that I think are relevant to programmers and development teams. Some of them are more programming specific. So, but feel free to take a look down there for anything else you're wondering about. Give me one this time. Wouldn't the implementation of both functions be identical except for the cast? Yes, Wheatlaw. They're very likely to be the same for now, but we might be changing the way the other one works. I'm not sure. We'll have to think about it. You need to be good in general things, design patterns, dependency injection, security. So if you just need general stuff, I would recommend you read more than one book. I don't think there's going to be one book that I would say this is the book that that is great for learning these things. I used to run a lot of workshops teaching dependency injection, clean coding, that's software craftsmanship, those sorts of things. I taught a lot of extreme programming workshops as well. So those types of things would all be relevant to what you're looking to learn, Mustafa. Obviously, you can't attend those because, first off, they're not happening right now because pandemic. But then also, you'd have to be in some way physically near me because certainly, even once pandemic becomes not quite so serious, I will not be traveling the world to do it. Okay, so create plugin. We need to pass in utilities here. What do I have access to? Do I have the... What do we have here? I need the from IOC. Okay, so we're going to say pass in utils from IOC. This is going to yell at us, but I'm hoping that's the only compiler error. If it is, then I think we're pretty much good. So pass that in from there. See if, and we'll say to do, see if we can connect the plugin with the plugin info. To do enable, disable. All right. There we go. I think that's going to be where I'm going to wrap up that for the day. We will, of course, do some more of this another time. Hopefully, I think tomorrow's stream is not going to happen, but normally we would do a stream tomorrow in the middle of the afternoon Eastern Time, United States. But we will not be doing that. Don't leave just yet. Stick around for just a few minutes, please. And if you haven't hit the follow button, be sure to do so, as that's the best way to get notified when we go live. We should be doing a stream on Thursday, so I'm hoping to see you all here for that. We will probably be continuing this, though I also want to get to some of our other projects as well. Other relevant stuff going on that I should mention. As some people noticed at the beginning of the stream, we had some discussions about the fact that I am in a new space here. So expect technical difficulties and things like that, because this is a new office that I'm in. So if there are problems with like lighting and audio and other stuff, I'm working on it. I've literally only been in this, like, we just recently moved in here, so we're figuring things out. Let's see. I'm also planning on doing some other changes to the stream. I'm going to be hopefully changing some of our layout, some of our other stuff like that. And I'm going to try to get us some more, hopefully some more regular coding and some pair programmers. I want to get a couple of pair programmers in to work with us specifically on this project. So we'll see how that goes. Let's see. And then also, I want to make sure that we raid over to someone else today, but I don't know who that is going to be just yet, so hang on while I look around to see who's doing something interesting. Okay, that's who it's going to be. All right, so let me run a couple of things before you duck out of here. I want to roll our credits and talk to you about what's going on. So, first off, I want to make sure that I thank our moderators for helping out today. So thank you, Crimson Green, for assisting us today and sticking around with us. I want to thank these wonderful people who clicked that follow button. If you are someone that has not yet, you can still do so. And then I want to make sure that I thank Riley, Strife, Twitchlove, and Nakey Supra, all for resubbing to the channel. Everyone, if you have been enjoying this stream, be sure to click the follow button and catch us next time. As I said, we should be live on Thursday. Look at your clock right now, subtract 6 hours, and that is the time that we are likely to go live on Thursday. So if you are interested in joining us, I hope to see you there. And either way, we'll also be back on Saturday. So take care, everyone. Happy coding. I'm going to put you on the outro screen and then raid us on over for some more programming goodness. Take care. Bye, everyone.